and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Alison Jaye, The Journey to Here. Today I have with me Corey Brown. Corey is the CEO of Wifeprenuer, a company that is in the business of being a wife, and also she's the co-owner of a company called Rebound Health and Wellness with her husband. Corey's going to talk to us today about her life, her journey in ministry as an entrepreneur, a business owner, a wife, and a mother. So today, let's welcome Corey Brown in Conversations with Alison Jaye, The Journey to Here. Welcome, Corey. Alrighty, so Corey, thank you so very much for joining me here on Conversations with Alison Jaye, The Journey to Here. I want you, please, if you don't mind, to talk to us about just everything you do and your journey to being a businesswoman, a wife, a mother, a minister, just an all-round woman. So, Corey, thank you for joining us and welcome.
Thank you so much, Alison Jaye. It is absolutely my honor, my privilege to have been afforded this opportunity. Thank you for the invite. I'm humbled and honored, and I don't say that as just a term, but I really say that out of authenticity and a genuine nature. And I'm grateful that at any time God allows me to speak and to testify of what he's done through my life, in my life, and what's coming for my life, I'm so honored. So as you indicated, God has allowed me to facilitate in all of those roles, positions, and postures, and more. And it has, it is totally a day by day, moment by moment, step by step opportunity to understand where and how I'm to be postured at any moment in time, any place in time, to be able to give of myself unselfishly and most importantly, make an impact. I believe when we talk about imprint and impact, that is our assignment, that is our role. So whether I'm doing it as a wife, as a parent, as a businesswoman, as an intercessor, as a minister, as a person in the marketplace, as an entrepreneur, that we're to make impact and imprint. And I know it always doesn't feel that way. It doesn't always look that way, but that is totally our calling and our assignment. And so I'm thankful that he has trusted me with each of these different positions and postures to be able to facilitate. And he continued to give me capacity, because even where I don't feel there's capacity, there's continually more that sometimes I'm asked to do, or that in my brain, my husband tells me my brain never shuts off. And I think that's an accurate statement, because I'm consistently thinking and consistently having momentum thoughts. And so I think it's a part of just my DNA and what I've been called to for the earth, my assignment.
Okay, that is amazing, because there's so many times that, like you're saying, that your assignment, and I was sharing with you, when there's many times that we don't know what that is, and we just feel like we're going through life, and life is happening to us rather than we're living through life. You know, so what got you started on the journey of, firstly, being a businesswoman? What got you started in business?
There was, I saw a need, and I met the need with my passion. And so particularly, we have a couple businesses. We have a health and wellness business, and then I have my Wifeprenuer Inc. And the Wifeprenuer Inc. came out of my passion of being a wife. I absolutely love being married to my husband. And I always are very specific about that, because sometimes people want to fall in love with the idea of marriage, but it's not about so much the ideal of marriage versus being to whom you're married to whom you were giving to. And so I saw the need for that. So my passion was being a wife. And then my passion was empowering people as well around that assignment. I don't know what this net is, but empowering me around this particular assignment, and wanting to see a firm foundation for families, and to wanting to shift the thought process of society where marriage and covenant became optional. And so I really wanted to put myself in a space where I took the strength, the courage of what I have journeyed through and continue to journey through as a wife to support others and to bring community together, to let wives know that we are in this together, and it is still honorable to be a wife. It's still honorable to be in marriage, and that I wanted our generations to see that marriage and covenant was still cool. And that especially in the society where we talk about friends with benefits, and we talk about alternative relationships and open relationships, and those things are so contrary to the foundation of marriage. And so I wanted to be in a space where I can influence that. And then with the health and wellness, we also have a health and wellness business. Again, meeting need with passion. Our passion is we enjoy living a lifestyle of activity and being healthy and having focus on our bodies and promoting good well-being. But there's also a mental state. Like somebody like me could still do X. So as you know, I'm a marathoner, but my body does not look like a typical marathoner, whatever that looks like, right? I don't know what a typical marathoner is because only 1% of the world completes it. So you tell me what's typical. But I wanted to put a voice to, again, people that looked like me, that felt maybe at some point intimidated by the health and wellness community, and find their voice and their space and being active and knowing that everyone is put in a place of advocacy for somebody. There's 7 billion plus people and growing in this world. So you were put in a place of advocacy and assignment for somebody or bodies. And so those is how our entrepreneurial spirit sparked, was need plus passion.
Okay, you touched on so many things that I just wanted to dig a bit deeper into. So I love what you said when you mentioned about how society now views relationships. Because if you read all the different things out there, and if you were to go by everything you see and read, you would think that nobody was getting married anymore.
Absolutely, or no one was happily married.
And there's that part as well, because they tend to give you all these statistics of 1 out of every X amount ends in divorce, and then second marriage is 1 out of X, and they break it down to third, fourth marriages, 1 out of however many gets divorced. But but you very rarely see, and it's so bizarre that at one point in time, you're sold the dream, which is the husband, the wife, the 2.4 children, the house with the white picket fence, right?
Correct.
So once upon a time, we were sold that. Then the next thing you're told about, what is it? Was it free love, and everybody just live and let live, and just do whatever makes you happy. But in doing all of that, we're seeing the breakdown of the family.
Right.
So now, so is society any better off now after all of this experimental love and the breakdown of the family than they were? And it just makes me wonder, what was it that happened that took away from the husband, the wife, the 2.4 kids as being the ideal?
I think because it became optional. Loyalty, faithfulness became optional. And that's just not, and we can see how that looks across the generations, not just in marriages, but jobs, friendships, commitment. Like, you think about the average tenure of people in jobs. Think about the average tenure of someone staying in a home, and all of it has shifted. And so unfortunately, it has also matriculated into a very core foundation, and that's our families. So when you say that I can be loyal when I desire, I can be faithful when it's good for me, I can be in a relationship when it's convenient for me, because you still have that selfish nature. And when it comes to marriage, you self dies. The two stand at the altar. You are two individuals until you stand at the altar and you enter covenant, not contract. But because our society has gone so to a contractual type of transactional mindset, it has also matriculated that into the family and the marriage. So the attractiveness of marriage is for what? I can live with my other person. We can see other people. Why do we need? It's just a piece of paper. You've heard people literally minimize marriage and covenant to things like that. Oh, it's going to make it worse when we get married. But let me tell you something, Alison. There's still, I don't care what society says, there's still a grace that comes when you and your spouse enter into covenant that you will not have outside of it. I just, no one can convince me otherwise. I don't care if you've been together 30 years, 40 years. Until you enter into covenant, there's a certain grace that you are not operating in.
And elaborate on that for me, because because there's going to be people that do not come from that spiritual home, that where they understand, where you say that there's a grace. So if you can break that down.
Absolutely. God, marriage is honorable in God's sight. And I believe, as the word declares, that what he talks about, what a husband's role and a wife role, and when they come together, what they're able to accomplish, what they're able to achieve together, because they have made a conscious decision to enter into a covenant relationship where the two become one. And so then God is able to allow his favor, that he's allowed to his mercy, that even in trying and challenging times, which happens in marriages, okay, but he's able to allow his spirit to intervene, if you should intervene in it, to be able to allow you to work through the hard things, right? To work through the difficult things, to work through what we look at from a human perspective as the impossible things. But to me, that only comes when you have done it God's way. And because marriage is honorable to God, it still is honorable. It was honorable from the beginning. It will be honorable to the end. You cannot fall within that particular sphere of it without entering covenant.
Okay, thank you. And it's funny because what was it? Just very recently, we were having a conversation. It was Friday. Because I'm part of a panel on Fridays, and we call it Fridays on the Couch. And so people send in their concerns and topics, and we discuss it. And we have a psychologist on the line. Then you've got myself as the coach, life coach, stress management therapist, and then there's a minister on the line. So you've got three different aspects of three different people with different inputs to bring to it. And one of the things that was being mentioned on there, and it was when you're talking about like being honorable and the commitments, and how society now, how far away from that we have gone. And it just seems to be such a recurring theme, a recurring topic, because people deep down want that, but because of either things that they've gone through, traumatic experiences, then it now people have built up these walls and these barriers.
Yes.
To say, like you said, oh, it's only a piece of paper. It's
right.
But if you hadn't gone through a certain experience, would you still be saying that? Because and when you look at it, it's like because if we didn't want that, everybody would be single, right?
Right.
And it's so interesting that you should touch on that, you should mention that. So thank you for breaking that down, and thank you for for just keeping it real with us.
Absolutely.
So and there's something else that you mentioned about when it talks about your health and wellness side of things. It was yesterday I was reading, I don't go on LinkedIn very often at all. And something flashed up on there, and I clicked on it, and it was this young lady. And my heart truly went out to her. She said that for the first time in years, she had put up a picture on her LinkedIn because a former boss of hers had told her that she was too heavy.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
And she then started to write about the effect it had had on her, because that that was body shaming, and then how it made her feel about herself. So what she would then do is she wouldn't take pictures, and she wouldn't put pictures of herself on her social media platforms or anything like that because of what this boss had said. So fast forward years later, she decided to, and this is a woman that's educated, very intelligent, very, very capable. And to be honest, I saw her picture and I just thought, there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Nothing wrong with you. And again, another thing to your point about what society puts on people, because I remember I saw this woman, and you could see she was a little bit on the heavy side. This woman did the full splits. I'm an athlete, I can't do the splits.
Right.
I can't do the splits. You know, so when you look at it, you're saying about people might look at a person's body and limit them, and then because society has limited that person then limits themselves.
Right. Because you internalize others' expectations. And I just believe, Alison, that we have to make a stand in every area of our lives, that we will not be a casualty in someone else's self-war. That boss had a self-war of his own stereotypical thoughts going on, but he allowed his words, his demeanor, and his action to cause her to be a casualty, which then made her an eternal victim and a hostage held victim into herself, where it was his expectation, not hers at all. So when we have, and particularly in the health and wellness environment, when we allow others' expectations to dictate what is and is not acceptable for us, then we go down a road that is very unhealthy mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, that then limits us from being able to do the things that we need and want to do to take care of ourselves. Well-being, I'm just not talking about exercising. I'm just not talking about eating healthy. Those are two very critical things. But you talked about, like on Fridays on the couch, the panel that you're on, we're talking about mental wellness, because it starts in the mind. It starts with how I feel about myself. And if I feel that I'm worthy enough to be able to take care of my body, if I feel like I'm worthy enough to be able to put better things into my body, to be able to produce better results for longevity, for memory, for energy, to be able to do all the things that I'm called to do, then we break our own shell of, we break the societal shell of what others say we can and cannot do, because there's an expectation. But I learned a long time ago that it's not fair to put my expectations on someone else, because those are my expectations, right? And so what's fair is for me to communicate and have conversation, and we come to an alignment of what we think our expectations, if we're in a relationship, are to one another. But if we're not in a relationship, then how dare you body shame? How dare you say what I can and cannot do? Because you didn't form me. I'm not made in your image. And so therefore, you're not the one who gave me breath today. I inhale and exhale whether you do or you don't. And that has nothing to do with you.
And it's funny that you should say that. And I like what you said, his self-war. And because I put a comment under it, and I think my comment was something like, wow, just wow. And I think I mentioned something along the lines of, I'm grateful that she started to see herself as the beautiful, intelligent, confident, capable woman that she is, and not as a result of somebody who's seeing you through probably their own negative self-image.
Exactly.
And that is something that, to your point, I think we really need to be mindful of when people say things to us. Are they saying things to us from a place of their own negative self-image? Are they projecting it onto us? Because if it's projected onto us, they don't have to think about it or deal with it.
Right.
And then the comments that I saw under that from men and women, and I was astounded to see how many men responded that they too had been body shamed.
Yeah. And absolutely.
And that, there was one of them that this guy said to me that not to me, sorry, the comment he made was he's always struggled with his weight. And his boss, his former boss, lost a lot of weight as a result of having a heart attack because he was quite heavy. So when he'd lost all that weight, he had brought in all of these shirts, his old shirts, to this guy and told him to have them because he doesn't need them anymore. So the guy's like, thank you, but they won't fit me, because apparently his former boss was even bigger than he was.
Ah, okay.
And he says, but they won't fit me. And the boss said something like, oh, well, don't worry, they soon will, because you're the office fatty now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, like our words shape not only our world, but has the potential to shape others' world. And we drop nuggets or bombs, either way, and we walk away and we move on. And then others are left with the responsibility of carrying your irresponsibility. And so in this case, that gentleman was left with, wow, perception. Like, not only have maybe my own self-perceptions and insecurities, but you've just now exposed me to what others are thinking about me. And hence, while health and wellness is so important, because how many have we seen go into depression, suicidal states, whatever that may be, because of not so much their insecurities, but the insecurities of others that have been projected upon them. And now they live in.
Yes.
They reside in. That was never their home in the first place. But the words of others built this frame, this frame around us that now has felt like a space of capturing, and that's what we're living in.
And that is so true, because I can speak from my own experience. That actually happened to me, because I have always been very, very slim, always. And you name the skinny joke, I've heard it. I've had some things said to me in the workplace and out of the workplace. I'm thinking, what made you think that was okay to say?
Yeah.
And I remember I was at work once. I was working for a very well-known car rental company. And one of my colleagues said, she just out of the blue, everybody's working away, and just out of the blue, she lifts her head up and she looks at me, looks me up and down and says, you look like you could do with a good feeding.
Wow.
And it's just like, okay, thank you, but I eat though. Thanks. And I remember another time. I remember I was going to a christening, and I just walked into the church, and the first thing like, oh my God, you're losing more weight. You know what I did? I said, good morning. Wow. They hadn't even addressed me, said good morning. The first thing is, oh my God, you're losing more weight.
Yeah.
And then I said, good morning. And then I says, but I've never been any bigger than this, so how am I losing more weight?
Right.
And then to that, her response was, well, wear shoes with a lower heel, because when you wear such high heels, it makes you look even thinner.
Again, like, wait a second. And that's, Alison, that's a really good example of how we have to set boundaries and parameters of what we allow people to not only say, but what we allow words to get in. Because yes, it's simple to say, okay, because it's so awkward and it's so surreal that you would say this to another human being, like you're so comfortable or you're so arrogant. One of the two, I don't know, that you would say this to another human being, but those are our ideal times where we have to set the boundaries and say, you know what, I hear you, but I appreciate my high heels. I appreciate what I look like, and let's go on and get ready for the christening. Thank you.
Yeah, but you see, the thing is, those times I didn't really know Jesus, so the answer wouldn't have been that nice.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, and because I was in church, okay, this will have to wait, but the Lord knows why He made you say that in church and not outside.
Right.
know, but I had that for so many years, that to the point where I actually developed what I would now look at and think, actually, it was an eating disorder. Because what I started to do was overeat.
Wow.
Because I was trying to gain weight. So then people will
Yes.
stop the skinny jokes. They will stop the comments when I walk into a room. They will stop all the kinds of, I just wanted everybody to just stop.
Yes.
With it.
Yes.
So I started to overeat, and I'm talking the crap that I started to eat. Because I wouldn't say that I was a person like one of these healthy eaters on a healthy binge or nothing like that. But I did make sure I didn't really eat fast food so much. And I wasn't a person that drank milkshakes and sweet drinks or anything like that. But guess what I started doing? I started to drink milkshakes. Hate them. I absolutely detest them. Because I'm not a dairy person, so I don't really, you know, but I was forcing myself to drink these things because I'm thinking these things are high in calories, right? These things are high in fat. So I'm forcing myself to drink these. And there was a drink, I don't know if they had it over here. And I would drink this drink, and it had so much sugar in it. And it was 1.5 liters. And I would drink one of that every day. And I would have a milkshake every day. And I would eat junk food every day because I was trying so desperately to gain weight. Yeah, so that people would just stop with the comments and the skinny jokes. And I say jokes. They weren't funny.
No.
You know, so to your point about the health and wellness and what people's perceptions and your body is not necessarily going to be what others expect it to be able to do.
Right.
Because even now people say, because I'm saying, oh, I need to go to the gym, and they're like, oh, you don't need to go to the gym, you're fine. I said, just because I'm slim doesn't mean I'm healthy.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm unhealthy, don't get me wrong. But people have this misconception in their head that it means if you're heavy, you need to eat well and go to the gym and work. If you're slim, it's just something where you don't need to. And that's not true. So speak to us about that.
Not at all. Everyone has to take ownership of their own health and wellness, right? So we're talking not only the physical activity, but preventative care, doctor's appointments, the things women and men should be doing on an annual basis, because health and wellness is not a look. Health and wellness is not a look. If that was the case, then psychologists could be able to identify serial killers. If that was the case, profilers would be able to know when someone was going to be a serial rapist or murder. Health and wellness, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, is not a look. It is a personal journey. It's something that you take ownership for yourself and say, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for my legacy. I'm doing this because it is something that I need to do to make sure that I can fulfill every assignment that God has called me on this earth to do. I do not want to leave this earth because I have made bad choices to my best of my ability around health and wellness that could have prolonged my life to be able to do and make the impact that I need. So it is truly a personal journey. And again, it's not always about exercise. That is a part of it. The eating, that's a part of it. But what you allow to happen in between the two ears and what you allow to be exposed to your eye gates and your ear gates, those are all health and wellness components, especially during a time like we're in right now. We have a human and a health crisis. We have a human crisis and a health crisis going on we're booked in between the two. It is so important that we are taking care of ourselves mentally and emotionally, that will then allow it to be manifested into what we do physically, what we eat, what we look at, who we speak to, what conversations we engage in, how much news we consume, how many times I go out to get fresh air. It all works synergistically together. It's not a look, it's a lifestyle.
I like that. And that is a thing that I think we really need to pay more attention to. The fact that it's not a look. Health and wellness is not a look, it's a lifestyle. And we in so many different ways. And, and like you're saying, that health and wellness can come from making sure that, because one of the things that I'm speaking to is, and another aspect of health and wellness is the people you have around you.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Who you allow to occupy your space. Everyone does not have the opportunity to sit in your space, and that's okay. But when we deal with our own insecurities of that, then we can say it's okay. It's okay when someone walks away. It's okay when I disinvite. It's okay when they don't show up, and it's okay when I ask them to leave. So it's all of that's okay, because when we realize that you do not earn the space, this place in my space, and I'm okay with that, then I can begin to properly segment and separate what should I be doing and who I should be doing it with. When we call this thing life is who, not only yourself, but who you're doing life with. And we need to take that seriously. We need to really identify who we should be doing life with, because it can either promote or it can demote the assignment that you're supposed to be doing.
That's interesting that you say that, because that's another thing that I'm going to go to when it talks about, I'm going to, because I'm not going to touch too much on it now, but talking about who you associate yourself with can either elevate you or destroy you. And so part of living that healthy lifestyle is not just about eating well, it's not just about exercise, but you need to take care of as a holistic approach to healthy living.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Wow, Corey, thank you. But I want to go back to your, how to pronounce it for me, Wifeprenuer?
Wifeprenuer Inc.
Yes, Wifeprenuer Inc. Because I'm very interested in, because I and it could just be me, but I don't see many things or many platforms where married women can come together and share and talk, because everybody thinks that the singles need it, and the singles need extra TLC, and the singles needs extra care, like, and it almost makes it feel like, make people think like there's something wrong in being single. Because of all this extra attention that's thrown on, the singles. But then, as a woman that has been married, and I absolutely do want to get married again, so I hope you're listening. But absolutely do want to get married again. I've just put that one back out there.
Yes. Put it out there.
So, but you see, the thing is, it's like, I didn't want to talk to my single friends about, because I remember one time, and being married didn't teach me that. I remember years ago when I was in a relationship, and I was going through some health challenges. So one of the things that, I'm being very transparent here, one of the things was they tested me for, I came back with a false positive for an STD. Now, I didn't know it was a false positive. And I'm just like, oh.
Right.
So I remember speaking to a girlfriend of mine who was not in a relationship, single, and all the rest of it. And she's like, she called his name. She goes, well, I think he gave it to you, if I'm honest. Right. So I had to go back. So the doctors called me back and says, actually, there's something wrong with all your testing. They tested me again. It's like, oh, it was negative. I think that was a false positive you got. And I'm like, okay, because I was about to go home and have some serious conversations.
Right.
And then, so they said, just to be on the safe side, we're going to test you again. So we did 3 tests, and I didn't receive any medications or anything. So you couldn't say, oh, it's because I took antibiotics or anything.
Right.
And they go, so 2 tests came back negative. They say, okay, because of all the other health challenges that you have going on, we think that it spiked some things and it gave us a false reading. So I say that to say, but look at what my friend said. She was quick to, well, I think he gave it to you, if I'm honest. Now, why would you say that about my
Yes.
partner? Why would you?
Right. Yes.
And then you hear so many things about, as a married woman or as a married man, speak to other married people if you're having
Mm-hmm.
problems or issues and things like that. So the fact that you've created this platform, and obviously looking at the name, you've mixed it with wife and entrepreneur.
Yes.
So you've created.
Our full name is Wifepreneur Inc. with the tagline, "The Business of Being a Wife."
Right. Okay. So talk to us more about that business and what the aims and what that business is about.
So the mission of Wifepreneur Inc. is to support wives, build community, and foster healthy relationships. And it was birthed out of a place where, to your point, as with anything, there's no book on how to be a parent. There's no book on how to be single. I mean, there's many books, but I mean, again, it's all a personal journey. And there's definitely no books on how to be a wife. And our position as Wifepreneur Inc. is to provide that community, that safe, trusted community amongst a commonality that, if nothing else, I don't know all about your marriage, you don't know about mine, but we have one commonality, we have one common denominator, and that is that we're a wife. And so because we're in this role together, how do we support each other? And I'm very, very focused on when we do come together and we give counsel and we give wisdom. My disclaimer is that the wives are to use it according to their household, right? Please do not attempt to duplicate or replicate what you think is or is not happening in someone else's household and think that's what's going to happen in your household. Back to expectations. You may get an idea, you may get a thought. Again, we surround ourselves with wisdom and wise counsel, but it is your responsibility as the wife to take discernment, to pray, to use your wisdom for your household and say, how would that be applicable to my household? Or how do I tweak it for my household for the betterment of who we are, team whoever. Like my husband and I, we're team Brown, right? So if it's team Smith, if it's team Jones, whomever that is, it has to work for team Jones, team Smith, or team Brown. So I'm very, very particular about that because it's considered laziness if you think you're going to just simply take what I do and duplicate it in your marriage. One, you're setting yourself up for a disaster, but that's just being a lazy wife. And that is not what we're called to. We're not called to. Being a wife is not a calling to mediocrity. Being a wife is not a call to laziness or lackadaisicalness. Being a wife means I have to consistently discern, use wisdom. I have to operate in a godly wisdom and counsel to understand what is the shifts, the seasons, and the circumstances in my marriage, day in and day out. And every day I have to wake up and say, I do. Because if the enemy had his way, there will be many days that you wake up and say, I don't. But you have to wake up and tell yourself, I do. I recite those vows consistently in your mind, in your spirit, because there are going to be some days that you want to say, I don't, I won't, and I quit. But when you talk about covenant, divorce is not an option. Okay. You set some standards about your marriage and say, this is, and I know there's circumstances, don't get me wrong, but I'm saying the premises, the baseline is that we're going to make this work. We're committed to this. And so today I do. Every day I do.
Yeah. And that is so important what you were saying, there's days when you're going to get up and say, I don't, I can't, I won't. And just some days you're like, oh my God, what is this? And I want to talk to you about that part because there's so many times. And one thing that I've learned along the way is, because if I go back, so you're really showing your son and your daughter how to be in marriage. Yes. And the reason that I say that is because, again, I've been in a relationship, in my first marriage, where it was a case of he never saw his parents argue. So he grew up thinking that they never argued. So in his mind, because we argued, it meant we didn't love each other.
Right.
And so because of that, that was one of the reasons that he started to shift and pull away. And I'm saying to him, having an argument within a marriage, and it's not like it was one of those where we were fighting and cussing or anything like that at each other. We were just disagreeing. So when I say argument, it wasn't that whole shouting, raised voices, and it out of anger. We were just disagreeing and having that. What I'm going to use arguing for want of a better expression, but it's that, because that is the forum that you then come together to whatever you're disagreeing about, and then to discuss it. And you may end up agreeing to disagree, or you may end up with both thinking what coming around to his way of thinking or her way of thinking. But because he never saw that, in his mind is, if you argue, it means you don't love each other. Speak to us about that.
It's so critical that when you get married or before marriage, that you sit down and you have those conversations of expectations. So that, and there's things that's going to come up, absolutely. But at pre-marriage, it is so important to talk about the expectations of, from how we communicate to who takes out the garbage, who manages the finances, how many children do you want? Do you like to vacation? Do you prefer to vacation in the Caribbean? Or do you holidays? Like, these are things that, if they're not addressed, become what I call niches, or they become divots in a relationship that will eventually become holes and become things that bury into the relationship. And so, to your point, you talked about your spouse, having those conversations of, when we disagree, how are we going to disagree? And what's going to be our common ground about, if we decide that we don't agree, but can we agree that we're going to do what's best for the household? Can we agree that we're going to do what's best for the marriage, even if we come from it in different perspectives? Right? So, because sometimes the disagreement is just, I have different perspective because I have different expectations. I grew up in a home where we never had this, or I never heard them have disagreements. But you grew up in a home that didn't have two parents. So what does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? So having those conversations pre-marriage and then consistently throughout marriage is so important. I'll never forget, I think I said this on a recent conference I was on. One of the things I learned early in my marriage with my husband was his expectation of when I came home from work. And I remember one day coming home from work, and it would have been just a hard day, a very hard day, a lot of things going on. And you know, those days when you just want to get home and you just want to unplug and unwind. And I came in carrying that into my household. And he said something, he asked me a question. So I was already irritated. And I already my tolerance level was little to none at that time. And he asked me a question, and I remember responding like, "What?" And he looked at me, he was like, "Is that how you speak to the people at work all day?" I was like, "Oh."
Ouch.
So basically he was saying, you speak better to them than you do to, or you spoke better to them today than you're speaking to me right now. Is that fair? No. Is it fair for my husband to get my leftovers? No. Is it fair for my husband to become the scapegoat of my societal frustrations and my marketplace woes? No. So I learned that was an expectation of his. Like, I'm gone 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever our particular work day may be. And I still needed the strength, the grace, and the courage to come home and be able to still operate in the role of his wife and be sensitive enough to his needs, and him be sensitive enough to my needs.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you that as well, because it's a case of being sensitive to each other's needs, because I don't want anybody looking at this thinking, and because you know what the thing is, a lot of the times we have a problem with the word submission, because the Bible says, wives, submit to your husbands. So I
Yes.
don't want anybody looking at this and thinking that this is just a conversation about being submissive and submitting to your husband. It's very important that he was also sensitive to your needs. And I remember, like in my own marriage, my first marriage, but very early on, I would have the same thing. And I would come home literally fire breathing coming out of my nose, steam coming out my ears and off the top of my head. And one thing I remember he said to me, he goes, okay, when you come home, I'm going to give you 15 minutes and you can get it all off your chest. But then, you see, once that 15 minutes is done, we're not talking about it.
Right.
And he gave me that. So, you know, I was like doing the speed talking, 100 words a minute, trying to get as much into that 15 minutes as possible.
Like I have a sliver of time.
Literally, I'm trying to get 9 hours into 15 minutes.
Right, right. So I need you to keep up with the names, keep up with what I'm talking to, because I don't have time to go back.
Yes, because I need you to buckle in now.
Right.
Buckle in, because and I was very grateful for that. So he was sensitive to my needs, in the sense of he knew that I needed to get it out. Otherwise, our evening was going to be tainted, because I'll still have it in my mind and day. So anybody listening, this is not just about, this isn't a thing about being submissive and we have to swallow our feelings and not express or anything like that. No, your husband needs to be sensitive to also what you are going through as well. And then I've been on the flip side of that when things started to go a bit south in my first marriage, that because my ex-husband, he is a personal trainer. So, and I wanted him to train me. And I remember he'd get quite exasperated with me. And I'm thinking, hold on a second. When you're at work and you're with your clients, I'm sure you have more patience and tolerance with them. Show me the same.
Mm-hmm.
So I've experienced both sides of it, him being sensitive to my needs and then him not showing me the level of compassion and kindness that he shows to the client.
Yeah.
So and being having experienced both ends, it is eye-opening. Yeah. And it taught me something in how I need to be. It's like, am I the same? And so I realized, actually, yes, I had been, hence him giving me that 15 minutes every day when I first came home. So,
and submission goes both ways. I mean, I know people feel like submission is that word that we say, but no. Submission, we are to submit, and we're to submit to one another. And as wives, we are to submit to our husbands. That is, again, part of the grace. It's not you do it's if you focus on doing what God tells you to do, and I focus on God doing the way God tells me to do, I promise, as we come together in covenant, it works, right? Not that it is, because marriage is work, but the work of the marriage works. And the work of the marriage works when we decide to take ownership and responsibility of our roles. When I talk about Wifeprenuer Inc. and the conferences and the workshops that I have, that's professional development for wives. It makes no sense for us to have professional development for our jobs, for our schools, for everything else that we want to do and achieve and become proficient in, and not try to go to a place of mastery and proficiency in the things that matter most. And that's our families, and that's our lifestyles, and that's our spouses. And that's a part of Wifeprenuer Inc. is allowing ourselves to grow to a place of proficiency for the one I'm married to, the one that I've been called to and that's been called to me. He deserves it, and so do I.
Yeah, and I think there needs to be, I'm saying that, but I don't know. It would be great if there was something like that for men, for husbands and fathers, because I've become to realize of late, being a coach and the coaching expanding to men actually reaching out, wanting help. And
Right.
because a lot of men, they don't know how to be a husband. They
Mm-hmm.
don't know how to be a father because I was saying this to somebody the other day. Now, I don't know my father. And I have seen other situations where the father has been in the home, but has been so absent.
Yes.
And I remember I saying to somebody, I'm not sure which is worse. Growing up in a home without a father, not knowing him, or growing up in a home with a father, but he is so absent and distant and just not present. And because of that, you have so many men, and regardless of what statistics say, that if you grow up in a household without a father, you're 10 times or whatever times more likely to end up this way. There's men that have grown up in a household with a father, with a completely checked out father, and they're still struggling. How do I be a husband? How do I do fatherhood? How do I do this?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And it is that the supportive community can never be devalued. And so the support, having groups and organizations that help support all facets of our lives and us being able to subscribe to them is critical. Because as the example you gave, there's the same with the side on the mother, a mother being in the home but being absent, not being the nurturer that most mothers are. The fathers, having to take that role, or even now where we have the fathers having to take on, they're staying home, and the mothers are in the workforce. So the dynamics have even changed, and how to have that support for the men to be able, who are the societal foundations, who are the heads of the households, how to support them in their thoughts and their ideas and their needs is such a critical space as well. And I know as we are continuing to widen and community, and the depth and breadth of community is growing, that different organizations and groups like that are coming out more, especially from an ethnic perspective, because each group has its own certain needs.
Yes, that is so true, and that is. I'm glad that you touched on that, especially from an ethnic perspective, because if we listen to the media, we would think that there are no black men in the homes, and they've all got children all over the place, literally like Abraham got children, like count the stars in the sky kind of thing. But that is,
correct.
That is so not true, because statistically there are more black fathers in the home than our Caucasian counterparts, statistically speaking. But then that's not what is pushed in the media. So people have this thing, and then you have even more pressure on men of color, because they're already at a disadvantage because how they're portrayed in the media, but it's not true. And yet, so to your point, there are a lot of organizations coming up, and stay tuned, because Conversations with Alison Jaye has got some of them coming up as guests. Very exciting. So there are a lot out there in the business, and it's not just helping fathers of their own ethnicity, which is the beauty of it. It's just they can look, like you saying, the common denominator in all of this, we are husbands and we are fathers, regardless of what the color of your skin is. We are husbands and we are fathers, and we need help and guidance too.
Yes.
And it's the same with like women, regardless of the color of your skin, you are mothers, you are wives, and need all the support and the community you can get.
Yes. Yes. It is critical. And we will be foolish to think that we don't. And that's part of the reason why the pandemic has been so daunting on us, is that we're used to living and operating in community. So when we become isolated, and we, through the need, obviously that was the need, and through necessity, it's challenging, because we're used to operating with common commonalities and common strengths. in community. That's what humans were built that way. That's the way that we were created. And so I'm thankful for technology that, again, God does all things well, that even in the midst of this situation, we have technology where people can still connect, reach out, even without that physical reach out. There's still the virtual connection. So there's some type of communication that can still happen to provide these supports and to provide these platforms so people know you're not alone. That is one of the most human needs, is for people to know I'm not alone. I'm not in this by myself. I'm not some disadvantaged alien that this is only happening to me, or I'm the only one with this thought, or I'm the only one with this need. No, not at all. And so that's the division of the enemy. But we have to know that when we come together, it's great to know that, you know what, you have the same thought, struggle, successes, circumstances, situations as I, and now we can come together and bring about solutions together, about solutions for our home, solutions for our children, solutions for our community and our marketplaces, solutions for our government, solutions for our cities and our communities. So that since the world has not ended, there's still obviously more that God wants us to do. That how do we be about our Father's business and doing that in excellence?
Yes, I love that, Corey. I love that. Thank you. And finally, to talk to us. So we've touched on wife, mother, businesswoman. So Corey, the minister. And how do you
it is, I love God and I love God's people. And you can't love him and not love his people. It's just, you just can't. It's not biblical. And so I love that he called me. I come from a legacy. My father was a bishop. My father's been deceased now for a couple of years. His birthday was Sunday. And so I unexpectedly lost my father. Did not expect that my father was not still be here to celebrate his 79th birthday. But I absolutely am a daddy's girl. And so I come from a legacy and a lineage of ministry, not only from my dad, but also my mom. So I've been serving since I was 12. I've been in ministry, like literal ministry, since I was 12. I was the president of our young people's department. So I've been in ministry leadership since I was 12. And I know I only look like I'm 20, but trust me, there's some years that I have earned through ministry. And so when God called me and my husband into ministry and to be ministers, I accepted the calling, and I'm humbled by it because I'm called to intercede, have different spiritual gifts that he has called me to. But at the end and the beginning of the day, I love God and I love serving his people. I believe there's a compassion. I believe there's a humility that comes with serving and being able to identify and meet people at different points of their lives. And so I'm thankful that I'm able to do that, whether that's through prayer, through a spoken word, through an exhortation, through a preach message, or simply putting my hands to the plow and being able to serve. And my husband and I, philanthropy is just a part of our DNA as a family. Our children know it. We know it. It's been like that. And so I'm thankful that as a minister, I'm able to give perspectives on even situations that's like happening now, and how I feel that as believers, we should be responding. And also as wives, as a mother, as a parent, how I feel that we should be responding to our lives. And so my whole life is based on what the word says about it. He is my counselor. He is my consultant. He is my everything. And my daily prayer is not my will, but your will be done. Even when I want to kick my free will into full gear, not my will, but your will be done.
That's great. Thank you so much, Corey. This has been great. This has been great. So what's next for Corey and for Wifeprenuer?
Well, Wifeprenuer will continue to work on our strategic planning for what's next. We are 5 years old. And so this is going to be our 5-year anniversary conference here in South Florida. Well, COVID has said different. So we're shifting to a digital experience. But I really, I took a little time out from Wifepreneur when I transitioned from Michigan to Florida. It was some out of just transition, but other out of disobedience. So let's just be honest with that. Got to be honest. Um, and so I am really, I've re-engaged and postured and positioned myself around Wifepreneur. So more empowerment sessions, more virtual experiences when we can get back to in-person experiences, creating digital platforms for people to plug into, creating peer-to-peer cohort groups for people to continue to be supportive of one another and know that our assignment is so necessary. It is so critical, but yet we don't have to do it alone.
Yeah, excellent. So you mentioned something, and I just want to touch on it real quick, where you said out of disobedience, because one of the things that I really want to get across to people is that people see a certain level and think it's just been plain sailing, it's just been easy, it's just been smooth. But we all fall into, and I think sometimes when we are disobedient, it's because we're operating in fear.
Absolutely.
Of the unknown. So talk to me about the journey to Wifepreneur and this time of you going through disobedience, and what was it like? Because I know, like, for me, starting a new project, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do it. It's outside of my comfort zone. So talk to me about that and the times when you've looked at it and seen that it was too much and felt like, no, I'm not going to do this, and had that bit of a tug of war with yourself.
Mm-hmm. See, starting is easy. Sustaining is what's is challenging, because we get excited with the launch. We get excited with the momentum that we gain because it's new. But the Bible says better is a thing, is the end of a thing than the beginning of a thing. And I'm not saying end like it's completed, but like following through and going through something. So when I launched Wifepreneur, I have another aspect of it. It's called the Real Praying Wives. And it started with prayer calls and really surrounded around Super Bowl Sunday. It's just something that God had given me, and the Real Praying Wives launched, and it launched well. And then I shifted part of it into Wifepreneur Inc. And so and it's good when you're in a place where people know you and you're doing your thing and you have large attendances. So you're equating quality with quantity. And then God moves you to a new space that you knew that he opened up the portal for you to be in, but you're like, whoa, 2 likes, 1 comment, 3 people show up. Whoa, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna, because again, you get in your own head and like, I'm just gonna, oh, it's easy. I know I'm in transition. And transition is one thing to transition, but it's another thing to stall. And so I feel that a part of my stalling became a place of disobedience where I was supposed to be doing things and I lost momentum because I just, either out of laziness, mediocrity, or lack of confidence, because I had shifted to a new place that I didn't do as consistent as I should have. And so that's when I talk about the place of disobedience, because disobedience, you may be doing it, but are you doing it the way that he has told you to do it? Are you doing it the way that he's asked you to do it? Or are you doing it to say it's done? This thing about living a lifestyle of walking out your assignment, or your godly assignment. It's not about a checkbox. It's not about your Franklin planner or your BlackBerry. I know I'm dating myself, or even your little to-dos on your planner or your iPhone. It's about a consistency. And so for me, I was not operating in consistency, even though I had set up the infrastructure, but I was not operating in consistency. And so for me, regaining that momentum was a confidence thing. It had nothing to do with my calling, because I was sure of my calling. I was sure of what my assignment was, but it was a confidence thing. And me being confident to be able to do it again. do it again. Sometimes you got to step out again. What did God tell the fishermen? Throw it out again. Well, God, we've done this. We've been there, done that. Basically what they wanted to tell him, but he said, I know, do it again. And so for me, it was do it again, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. And when you keep doing what God has called you to be and to do, you will see the manifestation. I tell myself, I don't care if it's one wife or 1 million wives, I know I'm called to this assignment. And so whomever in that sphere of time and space that I'm to be a blessing to, let it be.
And it's key, one of the things you said, do it again. Just keep doing it again. Because the thing is, it's almost like you get up today and you do get one thing done today. It doesn't mean you're not going to get up tomorrow and do something tomorrow.
Right.
So just keep trying. And that's one of the things I want to leave with our listeners as well. Just do it again. Just try one more time. And you know, there's an expression, if at first you don't succeed, try again. And that is the key. That is so important because, and I say this, and I think I've said it to death now, there's that expression, and it's such a fallacy, overnight success.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe there's any such thing as overnight success, because somebody may not have been heard of yesterday, but then they're heard of today. Doesn't mean they started yesterday.
Right.
There were so many days and weeks and months and years previous to that they were knocking on doors, or they were performing, or they were doing that, and they were building, and they were working to get to the place where, okay, you didn't know them yesterday, you know them today, but do you know the years behind what it took to get
correct
to? And so that's one of the things I just really, it's such a bugbear for me, this whole overnight success or overnight celebrity thing, because there really is no such thing. And I just really want to leave our listeners with try again.
Yes. Hold yourself accountable to what you believe your assignment is and what you have been given as your assignment. Hold yourself accountable. When you do it, the courage, the strength that you will get from doing it again will be such a glory that you will be able to put in the work ethic. You'll be able to put in the ideas, and the innovation and creation will come when you say, confess with your mouth, I'm going to do it again. Yeah. And believe in your spirit, I'm going to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is so key. Thank you, Corey. So where can people find you? Where can they find your conferences?
You can go on Facebook and Instagram, Wifepreneur Inc., Wifepreneur Inc. You can also connect with me personally at Corey L. Brown on Twitter, Wifepreneur, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And then Rebound Health and Wellness, you can find us on Facebook at Rebound Health and Wellness.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I know if our listeners want to reach out to you, Corey, for basically any facet of their life, that's where they can find you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Corey. This has been great. I've loved it. We should be doing this more often, actually.
Absolutely. My honor, and I'll come back anytime.
Thank you so much, Mike. Please give my love to the family as always.
I will absolutely. Please give my love to mommy. I look forward to seeing what's next for you, Alison Jaye.
Thank you so much, sweetheart. Take care.
All right. Blessings.
Thank you. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Corey, for joining us and talking to us about your journey as a mother, a wife, a businesswoman, and a minister. It's been great. I've enjoyed every moment of it, and hopefully we will be having you back. So next time on Conversations with Alison Jaye, The Journey to Here.